Thanks for coming, Deepa, Mohan, and Satish. I'm really very happy to be here among all of you. Culture is something like, Subha Besmo sonangale, you love ocean, you don't go and drown. But our culture is like that. If you love, you have to drown and show me that you love me. So that's the kind of culture we all grew up with. இப்போதான் கொஞ்ச நாள் எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு because I'm 60 plus. So இப்போதான் ஒரு 2 வருஷமா we are all talking about boundaries, self-love, self-respect and all that, because otherwise ஒரு ஃபேமிலின்னு இருந்தால் like you have to give in everything to make them happy, you have to sacrifice. So அதுலேருந்து we are transforming slowly into setting boundaries, and so that is normally seen as a selfish act or kind of arrogance. அப்படிதான் நிறைய பேர் பார்க்குறாங்க இல்லையா? So what is your take on it? Why boundaries are important, and what are the kind of areas, like what I say is there are financial things also, like somebody can ask you, why are you spending so much on a dress, or an emotional space, or a space for ourselves to do something that we like. So இந்த மாதிரி நிறைய இருக்கு. So what do you think, where all normally we need our boundaries to be set?
I think it's always dangerous to ask doctors to speak. Medical இது மாதிரி போயிடும் அப்புறம். Boundariesனாலே ஒரு மாதிரி it's always counterintuitive to relationships. You feel like நம்ம தமிழ் பாட்டுல இருந்து சினிமால இருந்து எல்லாமே வந்து ஒரு மாதிரி எல்லாத்தையும் விட்டுட்டு தான் you have to have a relationship. So they always feel like it's counterintuitive, but boundaries are so important, not just for survival. That's what makes the relationship blossom. So it really creates a relationship which is healthy, and there are so many boundaries. I'm sure others will come in on it. From my perspective, there needs to be a boundary, emotional boundary. அதாவது ஒரு readiness இல்லாம sometimes you get dragged into a conversation without feeling ready for it, and you feel forced to have that conversation. So on the emotional boundary ரொம்ப important. Second வந்து நம்ம கலாச்சாரத்துல I feel really bad because I remember my parents' time and my neighbors' time, and நான் இங்க இருந்து 30 years நான் UKல இருக்கிறேன், but I still feel that the sexual boundary is still not very clearly defined. It feels like kalyanam panna onna it's like the woman is the man's property and they can do anything, and there has recently been a film about that, and I think that's so crucial to have that concept of consent and readiness to feel emotionally engaged, and that's not there anymore, and there are so many other boundaries, Ilya, so I'm sure you want to come in on that.
Thank you for setting the stage, but before that, how much time do each of us have, like, to talk about? How much time do each of us have for an interaction, like approximately?
Not just each of us.
Okay. And because he took really less time, okay. But thanks for setting the stage, and first of all, thanks for having me. Like, you know, the doctor and you rightly said, before a few years, even I wouldn't have known about this concept at all. Whenever somebody talks like this, and even after getting the consciousness, the only thing I feel like, where were you all guys when I was young and I was going through all the struggles? And the things like this were never talked about in our school, you know, in our culture and everything. So that place, I was going to talk about that, but he already mentioned it. Not only the culture within our families, even pop culture. The movies were like the exaggeration of all the, you know, like you have to give up everything for love, you have to give up everything for family sentiments. So that was what we grew up with. So when I say boundaries, the main thing I wanted to say was, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry about this, starting trouble. Okay. So the thing is, why do we need boundaries in relationships? So that's what I was talking about. So he rightly said that it is seen as counterintuitive, but it is not. One simple reason is that, you know, it is actually stupidity and like a sense of entitlement if you believe that love is going to be the solution for everything. All said and done, the other person is a completely different individual. And no matter how much you love them, no matter how much you adore them, they are going to do things that hurt you. It's simple math. And when it's going to be a lifelong thing, it is probability and simple math that they are going to do something that really annoys you. Sometimes even you're annoyed with yourself for a lot of things. So how can you even forgive the other person and, you know, get through? So this is exactly why boundaries are needed. If you don't set the boundary, If you don't teach the other person how to treat you, they are not going to treat you properly. So this is the one simple reason I think that boundaries are needed for all kind of relationships. And one more thing what I wanted to say was, so a few years ago I thought boundaries are for other people. You know, we are quite, in our culture, we are quite capable of setting boundaries in workplaces, especially women. You know, we are brought up in a very conservative, we do know what our boundaries are with other men, you know, but the family, the men in our own family, or even women or even children, women are not supposed to have boundaries. We are not supposed to say, I need my me time. We are not me time. We are not supposed to say, I want to do this. We are not supposed to say, I don't like doing this for you. No, there are absolutely no respectable boundaries, both for men and women, I would say, in this family culture. So that is something we should address, I guess.
No, Satish, since you have not said anything so far. See, again, coming back to our culture, we have a culture of even strangers questioning you on your personal matter. Why are you not getting married? It's time that you got married. It's time you got a kid. People don't ask, when you go and tell them that you're going to get married, they don't ask you why. But when you're not married, they come and ask you why you're not getting married. So, setting a boundary with the strangers, we need even that in our society. So if that is going to be the case, setting boundaries with our own partners, with our own parents, siblings, or children especially, these are all going to be really taken, it will not be taken very nicely. So it is not that people are, as she rightly said, everybody is an individual. We don't think alike. So sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times we are made to feel guilty about setting a boundary. And they always come with an emotional thing that you have hurt me, you think that I'm a third person to you, you think I shouldn't interfere in this, and what do I do? So how are we going to manage that? Do you have any suggestions for that?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. Well, I would call that a part of generational conditioning. So the first thing we need to do is to realize for ourselves and take the first step to break that. So I think communication is the key. In today's generation, I see, it's very different. People have access to media, they have the entire world in their hands. So they have access to a lot of information. Me, for example, I didn't know anything about self-love or boundaries well into my 40s. I'm 50 now, right? And I had an experience in my workplace. I just realized I was just giving, and because that was what I was conditioned to do. And then I read about self-love. I took the first step, and I said, I'm not doing this. I need to put an end somewhere. And I guess that's what we need to do. And it involves communicating with our loved ones and explaining to them why it's important to have boundaries and break the generational conditioning. And I think it's essential and it's important to foster a healthy relationship, not just with partners, but with your relatives or workplace, your children, your friends, or anyone. I mean, for example, I'm sure this has been the culture, at least from my generation. We go out as friends, we all eat together, and then everyone feels the guilt. Oh, I should pay, I should, I don't do that anymore. Everyone pays. Let's all Dutch. So,
Yeah, I think once again, being a doctor, I see the consultations வந்து ஒரு 60%. I'm a family medicine doctor, so I look at all specialties because in UK the family medicine will look at everything from head to toe. So I realized that 60% of my consultations were from women, and only about a small fraction of them really had physical illnesses, and they were suffering from this lack of boundary creation. But even in UK, because they can't express that, அது வந்து ஒரு illness ஆயிடுது. If you don't recognize that you don't have set boundaries and you're being forced to have that guilt, and the guilt வந்து it's turning into illnesses. So I see a lot of people with tiredness because it feels like it's more legal to have tiredness and illness than to set boundaries. it's the society will accept you if you say எனக்கு வந்து ஆர்த்ரைட்டிஸ் இருக்குது என்னால எந்திரிக்க முடியலன்னு சொல்லலாம் எனக்கு இன்னைக்கு டயர்டா இருக்குது என்னால எந்திரிக்க முடியலன்னு சொல்ல முடியல what kind of society are we in so many people have gone to the doctors just to get a certificate so the husband doesn't disturb them in marital night what kind of world is that so to me like Satish said it starts with prevention so now when I see a new patient I always tell them உங்க blood pressure diagnose பண்ணிருக்கோம் so I always say how are we going to sort your blood pressure out because the patient always says doctor நீங்க என்ன பண்ண போறீங்கன்னு சொன்னா நான் வந்து என்னோட பவர் ரொம்ப சின்னது I can give you the tablets I can measure the blood pressure but what are you going to do when you go outside this consulting room is what's going to make your blood pressure better so always start for those of you youngsters when you start a relationship நம்ம சினிமா ஹிந்தி பாலிவுட் ஹாலிவுட் எல்லாத்துலயும் வந்து ஒரு மாதிரி அன்கண்டிஷனல் சரண்டர் தான் லவ்னு சொல்லுவாங்க that is really hard because when you want to be liked by somebody you feel like you don't want to set boundaries but actually that's when it's a really good idea to say I'm not always accessible I have things to do as well that is a start if you're already in a relationship then they start to threaten you இல்லையா அந்த emotional blackmail வரும் என்ன கண்டுக்கவே மாட்டேங்கிற ரெண்டு ப்ளூ டிக் வந்திருக்கு ஆனா பதிலே இல்லை அப்படி இந்த வாட்ஸ்அப் வந்ததுல இருந்து ரெண்டு ப்ளூ டிக் அதனால அதை வந்து ஹைட் பண்ணி லாஸ்ட் சீன் ஆன்லைன்லாம் கேன்சல் பண்ணி எல்லாம் வச்சுட்டு இருக்காங்க டைரக்டா சொல்ல முடியல ஸோ ஐ திங்க் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் ஸ்டார்ட் ஜென்ட்லி இஃப் யூர் ஆல்ரெடி இன் அ டீப் ரிலேஷன்ஷிப் யூ ஹாவ் டு ஸ்டார்ட் டு சே திஸ் இஸ் நாட் அன் அனௌன்ஸ்மெண்ட் திஸ் இஸ் ஜஸ்ட் அ கம்யூனிகேஷன் ஐ ஆல்வேஸ் யூஸ் அ லாட் ஆஃப் ஐ வேர்ட் எனக்கு அது ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும் I feel like this so I would like it to be better if you say you do this அது accusation மாதிரி ஆயிடும் so when you start to set boundaries always do it gently make sure they understand it also so ஒரு Kubler-Ross அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு there is a psychologist there's a scientist she described how people react to grief இல்ல இப்ப யாராவது இறந்துட்டாங்க இல்ல we lost something we go through the curve மாதிரி இருக்கும் நீங்க கூகுள் பண்ணி பாத்தீங்கன்னா it will tell you you go from anger denial frustration depression அதுக்கப்புறம் gradually acceptance இது availability maturity எல்லாம் வரும் similarly when you communicate boundaries your partner may go through the same reaction they will start with shock என்ன இப்படி பண்ணிட்ட why didn't you come and then they'll start with anger sometimes it can even break the relationship so it has to be done quite casually that is the second step I think I also said to Latha that if the boundaries haven't been established for a long time it can even break the relationship when you try to set boundaries as well so there are a lot of ranges of there we'll come back to how to start to communicate that but I think the simple steps will really help
would you be okay with narrating some incident from your life where you set boundaries and it worked?
That from me. Before that, I have to say this, you know, when Latha called me for the seminar, I said, I'm writing this arrears paper, okay, for years, and you're asking me to give a seminar like that. But no, it's helping from what doctor said. I am really enjoying the session, so I had to mention that. Okay, I'll come to the personal incident later, but can I say why I really realized that I have to set boundaries? Because I'm very new to this concept. I mean, like couple of years only I understood there are something called boundaries. Self-love, of course, you know, that is, but I never understood what was boundaries. So what I understood was, like, you know, you expect, like I said, love to change you, you know, when you fall in love and you actually love the change, you know, people do crazy things when they are in love, you know, he likes it so I will wear saree, he doesn't like it so I will wear, no, stop wearing. We feel proud of all that. So we are actually okay to change when it is, you know, thrust on us by somebody. So actually we don't respect our own boundaries. Only when we form our boundaries are not for others. It is for us. It took me like, you know, so many years to realize this. It is not for others. It is not to, you know, distance somebody from us, but it is to protect ourselves from, you know, from even our own stupidity. So I realized this. I can very well pinpoint why and when I decided boundaries are important. I found myself apologizing for my reactions. because there is something that can protect you. Even if you are not aware of all this, if you have a very strong sense of self-respect, which luckily many of us have, I guess, through education and the values we have, and if you are an individual who is investing a lot on yourself first, that is something also I realized. Then the sense of self-respect can actually protect you from most relationship issues. But then it is going to be hard if you're not conscious about that. So I what would happen is when something happens, I will say, okay, yes, I shouldn't say anything. The second time I would say, okay, let it go. Third time I would say, let it go. Fourth time I will explode. My anger would flare up. My self-respect would draw that boundary when I am not able to. But that erodes the relationship, right? What if I had realized in the first place itself, no, you're not going to be okay with it. This is going to repeat. This is a pattern that will repeat in the relationship, and you are okay to say no the first time assertively. Then it could have, prevented a lot of escalations in the relationship. So that is when I actually realized that you have to anticipate boundary escalations and set the boundary first off. So yeah.
So I think when we don't set boundaries in a relationship, we leave it like that for a longer period. I think we are also making them expect too much from us. So it is the onus is on us, because we keep silent for a long time. We are okay with everything, and after a point in time when we flare up, we are looked at as a villains. So that is not their problem. Actually, it is our problem, because we have done that for so long and we are not able to do that. And then we become so we lose our self-respect, we feel so bad about ourselves, then we flare up, and then the whole relationship gets spoiled. So what do you think that, in a relationship, whoever can, we have not set boundaries for years, and all of a sudden when we want to get back to boundaries, not get back, actually start our boundaries, and so that is going to be a real kind of a war situation. How do you think we can address that?
The first thing is be prepared for resistance. Nobody likes change, right? And they'll just wonder, who's this new person? What's come over you? Is that black magic or something? Why have you changed suddenly, right? So that's the first thing to deal with, big challenge to cross. And then, again, it's all about communication, and I would suggest start small. Set small boundaries. And again, communication is the key. The more you communicate with your partner, explain the importance of setting boundaries, which is actually beneficial for the relationship. It's not just, and boundaries, like most people think, it's not for the other person, it's for us. So it's important that we communicate that as well. I think once we start that, then over a period of time, they'll get used to it. And then you can set bigger boundaries.
I just wanted to say one thing about that. It's much, much harder for women, because once you start setting boundaries or asking for a space, immediately the man starts saying, "Unakku enna hormone kolapama, period problema, menopause." I mean, they always have some kind of physiological explanation, and they don't get it, that you're trying to say, I need some space, I need some rest. So the society, there's always this gender issue with the kind of setting boundaries. And I like what you said, Satish, about starting small. Sometimes it's about explaining the need clearly. Enakku enna theva. But in order to do that, you need to know your own need. And sometimes that's what you were saying. For a long time, we forget that we have needs, and it comes out the bad way, and then we start to feel guilty, like you said as well.
Here I think I want to add a point. It's not always about others, right? We also have to ensure that we don't cross boundaries of others.
Boundaries.
I think that's the way we can teach them. I don't that's what I do with my kids. I tell them, I don't ask you where you're going, what are you doing, you just inform me and go, so don't expect that from me. So that's the way I show them that I don't interfere in your other thing, so don't interfere in. See, I think that also works, because I've seen people crossing others' boundaries, but they will have a boundary of their own. So that shouldn't happen here also.
Very true.
And one more thing is that, see, there is also a risk of, I feel, there is a risk of becoming, feeling aloof when you start fixing up boundaries in a family where people are very close, they cross each other's boundaries and all of a sudden you start creating your own boundaries and all that. People start feeling like unemotional, like you are detached. So slowly they start getting detached from you. Things like this happen. So sometimes it might make you feel lonely, aloof. You are the only person. You are a singled out person. So how do we navigate that?
I just wanted to say something. In the washing machine, fridge, the design uses something called fuzzy logic. இப்போ உள்ள washing machine, air conditioning, it will recognize, you don't have to set the temperature. Auto mode, it will recognize how many people are in the room, how hot it's getting, and then it will adjust the temperature as long as you set some boundaries. I like that fuzzy logic circuit. Japanese scientists invented that so many years ago. All of the machines are becoming really clever and fuzzy, and human beings are becoming black and white. Boundary vecha வெளில போ இல்லனா இல்ல அப்படினா ஆயிடுது. So I think first thing we need to recognize is it's not even in a relationship. ஒரு நாளைக்கு you could have a really bad day at work, and அப்ப யாராவது நம்ம பவுண்டரி இன்னைக்கு நான் உனக்கு டீ போட மாட்டேன்னு சொன்னா எவ்வளவு சோகமா இருக்கும். So it needs to be a flexible boundary. It's not like a fixed thing. இன்னைக்கு Saturday நீ சமைக்கிற, Friday நான் சமைக்கிறேன்னா Saturday you had a really terrible day at work. How lovely is it when the partner says, I know you had a really bad day, I'm going to step in. I know it's your turn, but I'll take over. So I think when you set boundaries, to avoid becoming aloof, you create a level of organic flexibility. So the flexibility sometimes unsaid, பேசாமலே தெரியும் தெரியுமா, அது என்ன நல்ல ரிலேஷன்ஷிப்ல உள்ள நுழையும் போது கேட்பாங்க தெரியுமா, did you have a bad day at work? Okay, sit down. That's beautiful. It can happen with parents and children as well. It's not just about romantic relationships.
As you rightly said, it's not about drawing a line, today I'll do this, tomorrow you will do that and all that. It's about adjusting, like knowing the other person and complimenting each other whenever there is a need. Yeah.
Same thing. I'll just add to this. What he said was like boundaries should be there. The boundary should be there in your mind. You should be okay with what is okay for you or not okay for you, and you can be flexible about it. When somebody is ill or somebody is going through a crisis, you say, I will never attend calls after 10. But if your friend is in a need, then you break boundaries like so. But within you, you should know what your boundary is what we are arriving at. Like, yeah. What is the next? I didn't say anything personally. No, but you can go to the next question. No, but I answered that. Apologizing for reaction was the main reason. I found that, with, okay, I can start from there. Be it with my husband or my friends or my sister. It was mostly like I was labeled as the short-tempered person from childhood, and we stick with label. But my friends and, there are some circles where people say, no, you don't get angry at all, you're a very assertive person. So there are different mirrors. There are different mirrors which reflect you in different way. I would like to say that if you have boundaries, then you can actually identify which reflections are distorted. If you know what is your exact reflection, then you can have different people saying different versions about you. All may be true, some may be wrong, but you will have a clear picture of who you are. So coming back to this apology, I ended up being the one who always apologized for my, because, and people invaded my boundaries happily because anyway this girl is going to apologize. So it was actually kind of, they weren't intentionally manipulative, but it was like I was enabling their manipulations by not at all setting boundaries. But when they had communicated, see, this is what happened, this is why I got angry, your actions was wrong. Their action was not explicitly wrong, because it didn't come with any emotional intensity. Some, turning up at my doorstep without informing when I was having a bad day, say for example, or doing something, or this is not exactly personal, or using my things without asking. And if you're okay with that once or twice, it becomes okay. And then when I become angry, so you end up apologizing, whereas it was not your mistake at all. So when you say, I actually respect other boundaries, but I was very bad at communicating my boundaries. So then I realized, no, I'm not that bad a person. I had a boundary problem. Thanks.
Satish, can you just sum up the whole thing? Tell us what do you feel about setting boundaries?
Short one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Short or long, whatever.
Okay, I probably won't take that long. I just want to say, remember, you're whole, complete, and enough. You do not need any external validation. And if there are two things that you need to take back, thank you, is practice self-love, set some boundaries, and you can lead a more fulfilling life. This is true. I'm telling you from my experience. I realized it much later, but I'm glad I realized it. And I'm already talking to my son. He's only 13. And, you know, we have the most amazing relationship. For the longest time, I'm separated from my ex. I was made to feel guilty, or rather, I felt guilty, right? Because we were separated and I was living away from him. But now, I have the most beautiful relationship with him. So it's all thanks to the self-love and the boundaries and the realization.
They say if anybody is flying flight they'll always say when the oxygen mask drops, put yours on first before you try to help others. There is a logic to that, isn't it? Because when you don't do that and you try to help, you don't know how long you're going to stay conscious. So in order to be a sharing, giving person, you need to set those boundaries. And when you set the boundaries, it's never about the person. It's about the pattern. I think the pattern of behavior தான் நம்ம now criticize பண்ணும்போது it's not about you, it's about that behavior. அதுதான் ரொம்ப முக்கியம். I just wanted to share similar to Satish, the three brothers. So Satish and I are brothers and Kalyan is our third brother. And we are so lucky that we are so close. It's very rare to see three brothers at this age, at this advanced age, who are really close. The reason for that is we went through a parenting issue where we went through a really strict household, which was full of a lot of emotional guilt. My parents were really nice people. They loved us. But அவங்களால they never stopped blackmailing us of everything. அந்த டாக்டர் படிப்பது வெளிநாடு போறது போவாத, கவர்மெண்ட் வேலை லோக்கலா இருக்குது, இங்கேயே கல்யாணம் பண்ணு. எங்க அம்மா she started making a catalog. நாங்க ரொம்ப humble background, திருநெல்வேலியில இருந்து வரோம். She started making a catalog. Every time I got slightly better marks, she started saying, இந்த பொண்ணு இவ்வளோ கிலோகிராம் கோல்டு, இவ்வளோ காரு. அப்புறம் ப்ளஸ் டூ முடிக்கும் போது நெக்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டேட் ரேங்க் வாங்கின உடனே இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் நிறைய கோல்டு, நிறைய பொண்ணு. அப்புறம் அது செய்யலைன்னா அது பிளாக்மெயில். ஏன்னா I'm supposed to be the eldest. So at that time I felt terribly guilty. I went through a lot of my life, right from going abroad, staying there, connecting with my brothers. Ellame guilt irundhudu. When I started showing self-compassion, we got even closer, not more distant. So it brings families together, not apart. So
Wonderfully put. I have a lot of takeaways, just like you.
thank you.
So it's actually setting boundaries is all about loving people more. That's a message actually. It's not the other way around. And thank you Satish, Mohan and Deepa for this wonderful conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Vanakkam. Thank you.